Golf tech used to be pretty simple. You buy a rangefinder, maybe you buy a launch monitor, maybe you buy a golf GPS. Each are their own individual product. But these days, many companies are trying to get you to buy into their whole ecosystem. Your rangefinder talks to your watch, your launch monitor talks to your rangefinder, and theoretically, this is supposed to help you play better golf. Today, we are talking about the best golf ecosystems. We're looking at all the companies that make multiple devices that are all based on an app so that all of your golf data, your practice data, your scores, all of your on-course data, all of that goes into one place, hopefully helping you play better golf in the process. But the reality is, some of these companies do it better than others, and nobody's doing it perfectly. So if you are in the market for a rangefinder, or a launch monitor, or a GPS, or just a good golf app to keep track of all of your data, keep watching. I think today's video is going to be really useful. All right, coming in at number 5, we are calling this the best budget ecosystem, and that is going to ShotScope. Over the last couple of years, ShotScope has quietly built out their golf ecosystem. Their products are genuinely getting better, and they're doing it at prices that are way below everybody else. Take a look at the LM1 launch monitor, which retails for $199. They also have a few different shot tracking options that come with their own GPS watches and don't require any subscriptions. Then you throw in the H50, their new standalone GPS, and the ShotScope app, which communicates with all of these things, and you have a full-fledged ecosystem. If you're looking for the best bang for the buck, if you're looking for the lowest price ecosystem, I think ShotScope's definitely going to be for you. You can use the coupon code BREAKING80, which is going to knock 15% off most of their pieces of hardware. And the fact that they don't have a subscription for any of their products is really compelling in this day and age when, well, just about everybody has a subscription. The downside to ShotScope is that while most of the products are pretty good, none of them are best in class. The user experience with most of their products I've found to be fine, but I've never been blown away by it. And more importantly, I've never been blown away by the golf app. Again, it's getting more robust, it's getting better, but their shot tracking system I found to be a little bit cumbersome. The LM1 launch monitor uses the app, but honestly, it doesn't really enhance your experience in any really meaningful way. And their new H50 handheld GPS, while it's a solid value for what you get for under $200, it just isn't quite on the same level as other products from Garmin and other brands. What I would love to see from ShotScope in the future is enhancing the app, really enhancing the visuals to make it feel more like a modern app and not so much like a budget product. I'd also love to see their user experience get a little bit better, especially when it comes to shot tracking. When you compare it to something like Arccos or even Garmin, it just really isn't on the same level in terms of information, ease of use, and just enjoyment of those features. But despite those critiques, I'm very excited about where ShotScope is going. I think they are continuing to get better, and if they can enhance that app experience, I think this is really going to push it over the edge. If you are on a budget and you hate subscriptions, ShotScope is definitely the ecosystem that I would look at. Hey, 2 things real quick. If you use any of the coupon codes or if you click any of the links below, I may get a commission for that. If you think that makes me biased, totally understand. Go do all of your own research. But I just want to be upfront that that is how I make money here. That is how I'm able to shoot videos like this for you. It's when you click those links and you buy those products. So if you did find this video useful and you do decide to invest in any things we talked about here, that is the best way you can support the channel. Coming in at number 4, we're calling this the ecosystem with the most potential, and that is Bluetooth. Over the last year and a half, Bluetooth has gone crazy with some of their new products. They've released the Playmaker GPS watch, the Player Pro speaker. They've released the Captain Pro and the Captain Air rangefinders, and they have most recently released the Rainmaker launch monitor. So Bluetooth, from a hardware perspective, is covering all of their bases. They have got all of the hardware out there to really have a killer ecosystem at a very, very good price point. My problem with Bluetooth mostly comes down to reliability, and I mean that in 2 different ways. First, some of the hardware I absolutely love and think is fantastic. Other pieces of hardware I've been pretty disappointed by and I can't recommend. The second piece comes down to software. One of the hangups for some of the hardware that I really like is the software experience. I feel like they've done a really good job of pushing out a whole bunch of new hardware products, all of which are smart products that integrate with their app, but I feel like the app is having a little bit of a tough time keeping up. This is most notable with the Bluetooth Captain Pro rangefinder. At $299 or $270 after using our coupon code, I think this is one of the best values out there. 7x optics, dual color OLED display, waterproof build quality, great feel in the hand, and a whole bunch of smart features like club recommendations directly in the viewfinder, as well as weather-adjusted slope data. And when you were just using the rangefinder on its own as just a dumb laser rangefinder, I have found the experience to be excellent. But once you pair it with the app, I found the app to be a little bit tough to use, a little bit cumbersome. It feels like they've crammed too many features into it, making the user experience when you're on the golf course a little more challenging. I've also run into some bugs where things get laggy and just simple things like entering your score on every hole becomes a little bit more of a chore than it should be. Like when you're on the golf course and you're using an app, like you shouldn't have to think about anything. It should be like, put in your score, put in your data, move on. You don't have to fumble with anything. And I feel like that's never quite been the case with Bluetooth. And while I should get a new Rainmaker launch monitor in for review soon, I've heard kind of mixed things from the people that do have them. This is both in terms of the app experience as well as accuracy. But I've also heard that some of the early firmware updates have helped both of those issues. So all of that to say, I'm really excited about what Bluetooth is building. They clearly are building out the hardware ecosystem, and they have an extremely robust app to go along with it. Also, for their basic membership, it is $99 for 3 years. So $33 a year, and in the world of golf subscriptions, that's about as good as you can ask for. So when it comes to where the Bluetooth ecosystem is currently, it ranks at number 4, but I say it has the most potential because if they can update the reliability and the user experience on the app, maybe make a few firmware updates with some of their hardware, all of a sudden you have one of the most complete and robust ecosystems in golf, and doing it at a price that is significantly less than a lot of their competitors. So Bluetooth is one I'm cautiously optimistic about, I'm really excited about, but overall the experience needs to improve just a little bit more to really get a full-hearted recommendation. If you do decide anything from Bluetooth is right for you, you can use the coupon code BREAKING8010, which is going to save you 10% on anything that Bluetooth sells. At number 3, we have the best ecosystem for data nerds, and that goes to Arccos. If you follow this channel, you know that I am a huge fan of Arccos. In fact, in a recent video where I talked about my 11 favorite golf products of all time, Arccos was number 1. I've played over 400 rounds with it over the last decade, and frankly, I absolutely love it. If you don't know what Arccos is, they are essentially sensors that you put on all of your clubs, and then it uses the app and GPS data to track every single shot you hit on the golf course, so it knows exactly how far every shot was. It knows if you hit it into the fairway or the rough. It knows if you hit the green. It knows how far away from the pin you were on all of your approaches. It can then take that data to give you tour-level insights about your golf game. And over the last couple months, they've released their newest version of the app, which makes Arccos even better. Before, it did a really good job of telling you what happened in your game, but it didn't do such a good job of helping you take that information and figuring out what to do with it. Well, the new app experience has completely changed this, so you actually get detailed, actionable feedback for not only how to improve your game, but how to play any golf course that you are going to be playing based on your game. So a great example of this is if you have a home course where you play frequently, it can then analyze your data of all of your rounds, figure out which holes you play well, which holes you don't play well, what your big misses are on the golf course, where you regularly have higher scores. It will then take all that data and give you an actual plan for how to play that specific golf course. Everything works really well, and I continue to be a huge fan. But what actually makes this a golf ecosystem? Well, now to go along with the sensors, they have 2 different hardware products that are called Arccos Air and the Arccos Smart Laser. Arccos Air is a device that you put in your pocket, and it can do 2 different things. One, if you don't want the sensors, it will then use AI as well as everything it knows about your game to track all of your shots without having to have the sensors. Overall, I would say it does a pretty good job of doing that. It tracks almost every shot you hit, but I found that it gets the right club like 70% of the time. So there is a little bit more manual data entry and manual adjustments if you're using Arccos Air. But I do love the fact that if I'm playing with rental clubs, I can still use it to get all of my Arccos data. The second thing it does is if you do have Arccos sensors, but you don't like having your phone on you when you play golf, you can pair it with Arccos Air. So Air and the sensors track everything. You can keep your phone in your bag, and it will still capture all of your data, and it'll do it more accurately than if you're using just Air on its own. But the device that really enters this into the ecosystem conversation is the Smart Laser. So this is the new rangefinder from Arccos, and overall, using it just as a regular rangefinder, I've found to be very good. However, the thing that makes it most worthwhile for Arccos power users is the fact that when you are on the course and you pair the rangefinder with your app, every time you shoot the flag, it will then mark that flag's pin location on the green. So what this means is that when Arccos knows exactly where on the green the pin is, it's going to give you much more accurate data around approach shots and your putts. And the whole point of using Arccos is to get actual data. So previously, you've been able to do this manually, either with the Arccos Air or on your phone, but having it built into the rangefinder really just provides a better user experience. However, Arccos isn't necessarily for everyone. First off, it is definitely more on the expensive side. Arccos Air, $350. The Smart Laser, $300. A pair of sensors you can usually get for around $200. So the hardware alone is a little bit of an investment, but to be clear, you don't need all of those things in order to use Arccos. You can be fine with just the sensors or just Air and still be able to get all of your data. But to go along with relatively expensive hardware, you also have subscription fees. While you get your first year of Arccos membership free, after that it is going to be $199. If you decide you want to use the Smart Laser, there is also an additional fee of $99 if you are a current Arccos user. So for the full Arccos experience, you're going to be paying $300 a year on top of your hardware costs. So if you're someone that only plays once or twice a month, you're probably not going to get enough value out of it on a regular basis to justify those subscription fees. Also, if you're someone in the Northeast where maybe you only play 6 months out of the year, it might be the same deal. But if you're someone who loves data and you want to see every possible data point of every single round you play, every single shot you hit, there is absolutely no better product on the market than Arccos. And this year, it has only gotten better with the release of their new app. Also, one little side benefit that I personally like is, as someone who travels a lot for golf, it really serves as my de facto golf journal. I can go back to every interesting course that I've played in my travels, and I can then see all of the data across every round I play. In fact, just last week, I went to Sand Hills for the first time, where my first round out there, I broke 80, which I don't do all that often. So to be able to get a full analysis of what worked well during that round, to go and relive my 3 birdies on the course, that's just something, as someone who is passionate about golf travel, that's one of the reasons that I continue to use and love Arccos. So admittedly, Arccos is a little more niche than some of the other ecosystems out there, but I've found that it also has one of the most passionate user bases for the people that are really into it. And if any of this stuff from Arccos sounds like the right fit, the coupon code BE15 will knock 15% off anything on the site. All right, and number 2, we're gonna call this best hardware, although number 1 could certainly lay claim to this as well. But for number 2, we're gonna go with Bushnell and Foresight. So I personally have a love-hate relationship with this ecosystem. On the one hand, I love the products and I love the user experience. On the other hand, it feels like they're changing their pricing every 3 to 6 months, and honestly, it's tough to keep up. In fact, I just shot a video all about this, how for the last 6 months, the Bushnell Launch Pro launch monitor has been one of my biggest recommendations, but then out of nowhere, they jacked up the price by $500 in a world where most other brands are lowering their prices, and it just makes that product a little bit harder to recommend. That being said, the hardware is excellent, and what they're doing from an ecosystem standpoint is one of the more reliable ones out there from any brand. So when it comes to the golf ecosystem, the focal point for Bushnell is their app. So for the last couple of years, the Bushnell Golf app has gotten a couple revamps, and honestly, it's as good as it has ever been. When it comes to the golf ecosystem, there are a few hardware products that integrate with this. The Bushnell Wingman GPS speaker is one, the Bushnell Pro X3 Link rangefinder is another, and any Bushnell or Foresight launch monitors such as the Launch Pro, the GC3, the GC Quad, and so on. So the base of this system comes down to its launch monitor integration. Within the last year, Foresight has released the new Foresight Golf app. This is the mobile app that you use for their launch monitors, and it is excellent. It is far more user-friendly than the old FSX Pro app. The experience feels decidedly more modern, and they have a whole bunch of features that are actually useful, like a bag mapping program. And this is the most important feature when it comes to the ecosystem. So what you can do is you've got your Bushnell or Foresight launch monitor, you hook it up to the app, you then go hit 5 to 10 shots with every single club. It is going to map your bag so it knows, on average, exactly how far you're hitting every shot. You can then take that data, you pair it with the Bushnell Pro X3 Link rangefinder, and you can get club recommendations based on your actual yardages directly in the rangefinder. Now, this is a feature that over the last couple years we've seen from a number of different brands. We've seen it from Garmin, we've seen it from FlightScope, we've seen it from Bluetooth, as well as Bushnell. And personally, I think that's a little bit gimmicky. I don't know how useful it actually is for most people, but if you are someone who happens to have these higher end Bushnell or Foresight products, the implementation of this system honestly works really well. I also really like how well this data integrates with the app. So on any given hole, I can look at the GPS overlay of that hole within the Bushnell app. It will then take that club data and it'll show me the club data for like 3 clubs. So if I'm like 150 yards out, it might show me 7 iron, 8 iron, 9 iron, and it'll show me where I'm expected to hit it based on my own club data. The implementation of it works well and looks really cool, and the fact that the Pro X3 Link also takes into account current conditions, weather conditions, and wind into its calculations mean those numbers get even more accurate. I have Bushnell and Foresight at number 2 because despite being expensive, all the hardware actually works really well. Whether you're getting the Bluetooth speaker, a launch monitor, or rangefinder, all of those are kind of best-in-class products. And so even if you're not using the connected ecosystem, any one of those will work really, really well on its own. I also like the fact that Bushnell's newest rangefinder, the Tour V7, also supports this connected environment. So that is $200 cheaper than the flagship Pro X3, but it also has a dual-color OLED screen. You can get that connected data, you can get those club recommendations in the viewfinder as well, and it's the first time we've seen some of those features in the lower-priced Bushnell Tour series. But the reality is, this is still a very expensive ecosystem to be in, so it's not going to be the best fit for most people. You don't have to spend $600 or even $400 to get a really good golf rangefinder. You also don't need to spend $3,000 on a Launch Pro or $7,000 on a GC3 in order to get a really accurate, really highly featured golf launch monitor. But if you do decide to invest in any of those, and especially if you invest in multiple of those products and use them together and use the Bushnell Golf app as your kind of golf home base, I think you're going to be really pleased with the experience. And even though some of the retail prices are high, you can use the coupon code BREAKING10, which is going to knock 10% off anything at bushnellgolf.com, including the Launch Pro, the LPI, or any of their rangefinders. And finally, at number 1, we have what we're calling the most robust golf ecosystem, and that is Garmin. When it comes to golf tech, when it comes to GPS, when it comes to golf smart products, there's not another brand out there that has as robust of an assortment of products as Garmin does. They have a budget launch monitor in the R10. They have a professional higher-end launch monitor in the R50. They now have 3 different smart rangefinders in the Z10, the Z30, and the Z82. They also have well over a dozen golf-capable GPS watches, and that's just scratching the surface of the product offerings that Garmin provides. Some of the features Garmin provides in its ecosystem are truly magic. For instance, every time you use a Garmin Smart Rangefinder and you have it paired with one of their smart watches, you shoot the flag, it will then show you exactly where on the green that flag is on your watch. Your watch will then not only take that GPS data that will show you the distance to the front and back of the green, it will also show you the exact distance to the pin, and it will remember that for the entirety of the hole. So if you shoot it and says the pin is 199 yards out, you walk 100 yards up the fairway, you look at the watch again, it will remember not just where the center of the green is, but it will remember the actual pin location as was shot by the rangefinder. So if you're someone who has a Garmin Golf GPS watch, despite some critiques on the rangefinders, I think that buying a Garmin rangefinder is going to be worth it because it is going to enhance that experience so much. Some of these features also work with the G82 handheld GPS, which is not only a beautiful handheld GPS, it also functions as a launch monitor. In fact, it is the only launch monitor that I think is actually somewhat useful for taking out on the golf course and using in the real world. But let's say you want shot tracking. Well, even without any sensors, some of the higher end Garmin watches like the S70 or this one, the Fenix 8, they have built-in shot tracking directly into the watch. So you don't even need any sensors if you don't want them, but the watch will keep track of every shot you hit. You hit a shot, the watch will recognize it, you tell it what club you hit, you move on to the next. Not the most seamless experience, but if you want that, you can go out and get the CT10 or CT1 sensors. The CT10s, those are the best, those are the ones that are automatic and will work in more of an Arccos-like way. But if you're on a little bit of a budget, you can get the CT1s where you just tap it to your watch and it recognizes what club you hit. So you get all of this data and all of this stuff that helps your game on the course, but you can also use the R10 and the R50 launch monitors to get all of your practice data within the Garmin Golf app as well. So you can have all of your score and round data, you can have all of your shot data, you can have all of your GPS data, as well as all of your practice data all in one place within the Garmin Golf app. The downside, well, there's a couple downsides, but the big one is that the Garmin Golf app, it hasn't received a really meaningful overhaul in a long time. In my opinion, this app needs a full overhaul. It's still better than some. Like, I still think it both looks and performs better than ShotScope. I think it performs better than Bluetooth, but doesn't look quite as good. And when it comes to Arccos and Bushnell, I don't necessarily think the app looks as good or performs as well as either of those. That's not to say it's bad, I just think that it can be significantly improved. And if Garmin does improve it and overhaul the app, then watch out, because this will absolutely be the ecosystem to beat. Frankly, as it sits, and for all the reasons I mentioned, I think it's still the ecosystem to beat. They have such good hardware that cover a variety of needs, a variety of price points, it's extremely reliable, and even though I am personally fully integrated in the Arccos ecosystem, that's the one I interact the most with, I still use a Garmin watch for pretty much every single round I play. So if you're someone who's trying to figure out which ecosystem to invest in, and money is not an issue, and you know you want a rangefinder and a watch and a GPS and a launch monitor, or even one or two of those, then I definitely think that Garmin is going to be one of the safest bets for you. Hey, real quick, do you like insane golf deals? Well, then you're gonna love our newsletter. I bet you didn't even know I had a newsletter, but I keep an eye out every week for all of the best sales and all of the best deals in golf so that you don't have to. And then once or twice a week, I send an email with all of the best deals I have found, as well as the latest product reviews I have here on YouTube, as well as on the breaking80.com site. So if you're enjoying this video and you love the idea of killer golf deals you probably wouldn't have seen otherwise, go sign up for our newsletter. The link is below. I think you're gonna love it. So real quick, before I end this video, I want to give you 3 wildcard options to just kind of keep an eye out for. These are ones that don't necessarily feel like full ecosystems yet, but depending on what they release in the future and how they improve their apps, are definitely brands to keep an eye out for. The first one is FlightScope. The FlightScope Mevo Gen 2, I think, is one of the best value launch monitors out there. For $1,299, you are getting one of the most accurate and one of the most feature-heavy launch monitors on the market. And last year, they released their i4 rangefinder. So this works in a similar way as both the Blue Tees and the Bushnell products, where you get all of your launch monitor data in the Foresight app, and then it pairs with the rangefinder to give you club recommendations directly in the viewfinder itself. I think this is an ecosystem that shows promise. There's a few things I don't personally love about the i4 rangefinder. Also, at a retail price of $499, it's really expensive for what it is. But if FlightScope can drop the price of their rangefinder, update their app in a meaningful way to make it feel a little bit more modern, and maybe release like one more bit of hardware to kind of complete this ecosystem a little bit, they're definitely one I would keep an eye out for. And frankly, if you don't care as much about the ecosystem and you just want a killer, accurate launch monitor that has a ton of features, definitely check out the Mevo Gen 2. Second wildcard I want to mention is Milesea. While I don't feel like they totally have a full ecosystem yet, you look at the Gene Sonic Pro, which is, in my opinion, the best GPS speaker out there, as well as the Gene Pro G1 rangefinder, which is kind of the kitchen sink of golf rangefinders. They're definitely on their way to being one of the players in this kind of golf ecosystem world. I'm curious to see what products they bring out in the next year or so. Are they going to come out with a launch monitor? Are they going to come out with a GPS watch? Are they going to do something that's going to make this ecosystem feel a little bit more robust? I'm also curious to see if they can make some updates to their app to make it more user-friendly, to make it a better experience, and to better integrate all of their products. If they can do all those things, keep an eye out. It would not surprise me at all if in a year or two we see Milesea kind of at the top of this golf ecosystem list if they continue to build out the way they have over the previous 2 years. And finally, the last one I feel like I should mention is Apple. If you have an Apple Watch, there are so many golf GPS apps that pair with your Apple Watch that really provide a great experience and a great ecosystem with which to live in. Golf Shot GPS, Golf Logix, 18 Birdies, all of those are great. All of those have elements of shot tracking. All of those have apps that work on an Apple Watch, so you can get an experience that is many ways on par, if not in some ways superior, to many of the dedicated GPS watches out there. One downside is you do have to pair it with your phone, so you'll have to have your phone on you at all times. That can also hurt both your phone battery life as well as your watch battery life. But if you don't want to be married to just one ecosystem, you can kind of cherry pick some of the best of all of them just using the Apple Watch. For instance, you could use 18 Birdies to track all of your GPS data in your rounds on the course, and then you can use the Apple Watch in tandem with, say, a FlightScope launch monitor to get all of your launch monitor data, and then you can use the FlightScope app to give you all of your launch monitor data on your Apple Watch while you're practicing. So when you're using the FlightScope launch monitor with the Apple Watch, it basically replaces the need for the screen because having all of your data on the watch is so convenient. That being said, when you go that route, it does defeat the purpose of having a all-in-one ecosystem where all of your data for everything is in one place. And that's something that on its own, the Apple Watch right now can't really compete with the other 5 brands that were mentioned during this video. So there you go. That is my take on the current state of the golf ecosystem. The brands that are investing in multiple hardware products, they're investing in an app, and they want your entire world to live within their, well, ecosystem. Is making that significant of an investment in one of these brands a good idea? Well, time will tell, but I will say my experience with most of these brands has been very positive. But as we move forward, I only expect these products to continue getting better, as well as the apps as they continue to make improvements as time goes on. So with that, my name is Sean Ogle. I'm the founder of this thing here at Breaking80, where we talk about cool golf courses and cool golf products. If you got some value out of this, make sure you hit subscribe. We've got 2 new videos every single week. And if you want all of my latest reviews, as well as all of the best deals in golf each and every week, make sure you subscribe to our newsletter. The link is below. I only send 1 or 2 emails a week, but I send you all of my latest reviews as well as all of the best deals in golf, which I track so that you don't have to. And if that sounds valuable to you, then you're gonna love our newsletter, so go click the link below and get signed up. With that, thank you so much for being here, and I will see you on the next video. Peace.